Thank you all for being patient. Am I speaking loud enough? You all can hear me okay? All right. Today's a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. And we had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly right enough. They acquitted him of the sex trafficking, which he was absolutely innocent of. They acquitted him of the racketeering conspiracy that he was absolutely innocent of, and all of the components to it. The kidnapping, he was innocent of that. The arson, he was innocent of that. The obstructing justice, he was innocent of that. And that is no longer just me saying that. That is the verdict of our jury.
Before we start, what's your honest view about Diddy now? Do you think justice was truly served, or did the court go too easy on him? Drop your thoughts below. I'll be in the comments section so we can talk about it. Rise of Diddy. Before the lawsuits, before the raids, before the downfall, Sean Diddy Combs was one of the most powerful men in American entertainment. Born November 4, 1969, in Harlem, New York, Sean's life began with both promise and pain. His father, Melvin Combs, was killed when he was just 2 years old, leaving his mother, Janice, to raise him in Mount Vernon. Even as a teenager, his ambitions stood out. At Howard University, he was already hustling, organizing packed campus parties that showed his early knack for business and branding. In 1990, that drive took him to Uptown Records, where he quickly rose from intern to talent director, helping shape the careers of Mary J. Blige and Jodeci. But clashes with management got him fired, a moment that would ignite his independence. In 1993, Diddy founded Bad Boy Entertainment, signing the notorious B.I.G., and together they changed the sound of hip-hop. Songs like Juicy and Mo Money Mo Problems turned both men into icons. Diddy's vision blended street grit with mainstream appeal, and it worked. But in 1997, tragedy struck. Biggie was shot and killed in Los Angeles, a loss that shook Diddy and the industry. His tribute single, I'll Be Missing You, topped charts worldwide and won him a Grammy, solidifying his place in pop culture. From there, Diddy became a brand unto himself, launching Sean John, winning designer awards, partnering with Cîroc Vodka, and creating Revolt TV. By the early 2000s, he wasn't just an artist, he was a global mogul, with Forbes listing him near a $900 million net worth. But as the empire grew, so did the whispers. Former employees and associates quietly spoke of control, intimidation, and NDAs that silenced dissent. Stories about secret parties and manipulation circulated in the background, never proven, but never forgotten. And in time, those whispers would break into headlines. Whispers that would one day turn into federal warrants. Cassie Ventura lawsuit, the catalyst. November 2023, the music world froze. Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former partner and artist, filed a shocking lawsuit under the Adult Survivors Act, accusing him of a decade of abuse, rape, and sex trafficking. In her 35-page complaint, Cassie detailed years of control, violence, and freak-offs, secret encounters she said Diddy arranged and filmed. She claimed he beat her, monitored her, and raped her when she tried to leave in 2018. Within 24 hours, it was over. Diddy quietly settled, $20 million, no admission of guilt. But the speed of that deal said everything. Cassie's courage shattered the silence. Her lawsuit became the spark that reignited years of rumors and sent federal investigators straight to Diddy's door. The federal raids, when the empire was breached. March 25, 2024. A quiet Monday morning in Los Angeles, until the sky filled with the sound of helicopters. Neighbors in Holmby Hills watched in disbelief as dozens of Homeland Security agents surrounded Sean Diddy Combs' mansion. Across the country, at his Miami estate on Star Island, another raid unfolded at the exact same time. Federal warrants. Black SUVs. Agents in tactical gear. and a media storm that would rock hip-hop's most powerful mogul. According to Homeland Security investigations, these were coordinated federal raids, part of an ongoing investigation involving offices in New York, Los Angeles, and Miami. Authorities seized computers, hard drives, phones, and electronic storage devices, anything that could hold evidence of trafficking, exploitation, or coercion. Inside the Miami home, federal agents reported finding AR-15 rifle parts, high heels, lingerie, sex toys, and bags of pills, some testing positive for MDMA, along with white powder residues confirmed to contain cocaine and ketamine. Some weapons had serial numbers scratched off, making them untraceable. Outside, cameras captured Diddy's sons, Justin and King Combs, being briefly detained as the raids continued. Neither was charged, but the message was clear. This wasn't just a celebrity scandal anymore. It was a federal case. Hours later, a spokesperson for Homeland Security confirmed what many had suspected: Diddy was at the center of an active criminal investigation. The details, though, remained sealed. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team condemned the raids, calling them a gross overuse of military-style force, and labeling the operation a witch hunt. By evening, both mansions had been swept. Agents left with boxes of evidence, and the world was left with one question: what exactly were they looking for inside the house of one of hip-hop's biggest kings? Because after March 25th, the whispers that once surrounded Sean Combs became something far louder. An official federal probe into sex trafficking, assault, and criminal conspiracy. And as investigators began questioning former staff and bodyguards, one thing became clear. The empire that took decades to build was now under siege from within. The federal charges. September 2024. The headlines hit like a shockwave. After months of silence, the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York finally unsealed the indictment. Sean Diddy Combs was officially charged. Racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force and coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution, money laundering. It was no longer speculation. The government had built a case. Prosecutors said Diddy ran what they called an organized system of exploitation, a network that used his music empire, business influence, and staff to control, recruit, and silence. In the 14-page federal indictment, investigators described what witnesses referred to as freak-offs, private events, lavish, secretive, but deeply disturbing. According to sworn statements, these gatherings involved coercion, manipulation, and surveillance. Prosecutors alleged that women were transported across state lines, pressured into acts that were filmed and later used as leverage. When Diddy appeared before the federal judge on September 17th, he entered a plea of not guilty on all counts. The courtroom was tense, packed with reporters, legal observers, and former associates. Behind the defense table, the man once seen as untouchable now faced the full weight of the U.S. government. Then came the question of bail. Prosecutors argued that Diddy was a flight risk, a billionaire with private jets, overseas connections, and homes around the world. They warned of possible witness intimidation and tampering, given his reach and power. The defense fought back, offering a $50 million bond, home confinement, and travel restrictions. But the judge didn't budge. The motion was denied. Diddy was ordered to remain in federal custody pending trial. As marshals led him away, cameras flashed and murmurs filled the courtroom. For the first time, the empire built on fame, money, and influence had cracked under the pressure of federal law. And outside those walls, one question echoed across the nation. Was this justice catching up, or power finally collapsing under its own secrets? The trial, inside the courtroom. May 2025. Manhattan Federal Court becomes the center of global attention. The trial of Sean Diddy Combs begins. A man once seen as untouchable now facing the weight of his past. The prosecution opens with a chilling statement. Behind the fame and fortune was a man who controlled others through fear, money, and silence. Over the following weeks, the courtroom hears from former assistants, employees, and ex-partners. Their testimonies paint a haunting picture, a world of manipulation, violence, and coercion hidden behind luxury. One witness, identified as Mia, tearfully recounts being sexually assaulted and says working for Diddy felt like surviving a storm every day. Another, Jane, describes the infamous freak-offs, secret hotel gatherings where women were allegedly forced into encounters under threats and heavy control. Prosecutors present sealed video evidence, financial records, and travel logs, evidence they say proves these weren't isolated incidents but part of a calculated system of exploitation. The defense pushes back, arguing every encounter was consensual and accusing the government of turning private relationships into a media circus. They insist there was no trafficking empire, only bad headlines and exaggeration. Tension fills the courtroom as cross-examinations grow heated. Witnesses break down. Lawyers clash. The judge intervenes. Then come the final arguments. The prosecution demands justice, reminding jurors that consent can't exist under fear. The defense counters that emotion should not replace evidence, urging jurors to reject what they call government overreach. When the closing words fade, the jury begins deliberation. After weeks of testimony, tears, and denials, the future of one of hip-hop's biggest icons now rests in their hands. And whether guilty or not, one truth remains: the empire Sean Combs built will never look the same again. The verdict and sentencing. July 2, 2025. After days of deliberations, the jury reaches its decision. Sean "Diddy" Combs is found not guilty on the most serious charges, racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking by force or coercion. But he is found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, applying federal law around moving individuals across state lines for commercial sex. The courtroom holds a charged silence as the verdicts are read. For Combs, it's a partial vindication on some counts and a profound conviction on others. Over the next 3 months, the legal world braces for sentencing. Prosecutors request a long sentence, arguing the conduct was systemic, exploitative, and required strong deterrence. The defense asks for leniency, citing time already served, claims of rehabilitation, and emphasis on consenting relationships. October 3, 2025. Judge Arun Subramanian delivers his ruling. He sentences Combs to 50 months, 4 years and 2 months, in federal prison. He also imposes a $500,000 fine and orders 5 years of supervised release afterward. During sentencing, the judge explicitly cites the abuse of power and exploitation of influence in Combs' behavior. He references evidence of violence, bruising, broken property, security footage, and repeated victim testimony to underscore the severity of the crimes. Combs receives credit for about 13 months already served in custody, which shortens the remaining period he must spend behind bars. When given the chance to speak, Combs offers a tearful statement. He apologizes to the victims, his family, and the community. He calls his actions disgusting, shameful, and says he's been humbled and broken to his core. He accepts responsibility, admitting the damage done. Legal analysts and public commentators respond swiftly. Some say the sentence is too light given the evidence. Others argue that, in federal court, 50 months demonstrates seriousness and sends a message. Many observers also focus on the mixed verdict, that he was acquitted on some counts but convicted on others, and debate what that says about proof, power, and influence in such a case. In one sense, the gavel's bang marks an ending, but for many, it's just the beginning. Combs prepares to appeal. Victims and advocates see the sentence as partial justice. The public watches, divided, as one of hip-hop's most visible figures confronts a very different legacy than the one he built. Public reaction and fallout. The verdict sends shockwaves through the entertainment world. Within hours of the sentencing, Diddy's empire begins to unravel, piece by piece. Major corporate partners move swiftly to distance themselves. Diageo, the global beverage giant behind Cîroc and De Leon tequila, issues a statement confirming the termination of all business relationships with Sean Combs. Their partnership, once worth hundreds of millions, is officially over. In fashion, Sean John, the streetwear brand that helped define 2000's hip-hop style, halts all licensing and distribution tied to his name. Retailers quietly pull remaining inventory. What was once a symbol of success and self-made power now carries the weight of scandal. The music industry itself fractures. Some artists, including longtime collaborators, remain silent, avoiding comment entirely. Others speak out publicly, calling for accountability and support for victims. A few defend Diddy, describing him as a man they once knew but no longer recognize. The silence of industry elites becomes part of the story, revealing how deeply the culture of protection once ran. On social media, the backlash is relentless. Hashtags trend worldwide. Former employees, artists, and acquaintances begin sharing their own experiences, stories of fear, intimidation, or manipulation. The internet becomes both courtroom and confessional. Financially, the damage is catastrophic. Sources confirm that several of Diddy's luxury properties, including his Los Angeles mansion and Miami estate, are either seized or placed under government scrutiny due to the federal charges and asset investigations. Corporate accounts freeze. Endorsement contracts evaporate overnight. For decades, Sean "Diddy" Combs was seen as the ultimate mogul, a man who turned ambition into empire. Now, he stands as a cautionary tale of how unchecked power can destroy everything it builds. The cultural conversation shifts. Commentators begin to ask harder questions. How many people knew? How long was this behavior ignored? And why did it take so long for anyone to speak up? In one viral moment, a former producer says during a live interview, "We all saw the power, but no one wanted to see the pain behind it." The music stops. The parties end. And for the first time, an industry built on image is forced to confront what it allowed to happen behind the scenes. Reflection and awareness. When the headlines fade and the courtrooms close, what remains are the questions we all have to face. Questions about power, silence, and the systems that protect the powerful. For years, the entertainment world celebrated success without questioning what it sometimes cost behind closed doors. Sean "Diddy" Combs wasn't just one man. He was an empire. And for too long, that empire existed in a world where fear, loyalty, and money kept the truth buried. This case isn't only about one celebrity's downfall. It's about a pattern that echoes across industries, where influence is mistaken for integrity, and where victims are told their pain is the price of someone else's fame. But the silence has broken. And with it, a new kind of accountability has begun. Survivors who once felt invisible now know they're not alone. Each story, each voice, is a reminder that justice is not just a legal outcome, it's a cultural awakening. If you or someone you know is being controlled, threatened, or abused, help is available. In the United States, you can reach the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-4673. It's free, confidential, and available 24 hours a day. If you're outside the U.S., reach out to your local helpline or trusted organizations that support victims of abuse and exploitation. Because no amount of fame, money, or influence should ever silence the truth. In the end, no amount of fame can protect anyone from the truth. If you or someone you know is being controlled or abused, speak up. Justice begins with your voice.